Right now at noon, 6 people are dead, including the suspect, in an apparent murder-suicide that started in Oregon and ended miles away in Washington.
In my 22 years here, I have not been a part of or witnessed a scene quite this complex.
Plus, a massive fire tears through an apartment building in southwest Washington, leaving nearly 24 people without a home.
And I realize we're coming off of a weekend where highs are only in the 70s, but today, a 93-degree forecast would make this August the hottest of the summer season in terms of 90-degree heat. Your complete forecast is coming up.
Our top story today, 6 people are dead, including the suspect, as the investigation continues into a murder-suicide in Washington County. 5 people were found dead at a property just outside Forest Grove over the weekend. Thanks for joining us here at noon. I'm Blair Best. The man suspected of killing them was later found dead near Seattle from an apparent suicide. Mo Hyder has a look at what we know so far.
This morning, there's still a lot to piece together, but investigators do say this all started when crews found a vehicle engulfed in flames. We're being told the incident happened at a property on Otis Lane just outside Forest Grove. That's where investigators say they found 5 people and multiple animals dead. Detectives have not released yet the names of the victims, but they say they don't believe this was a random act. Yesterday, the search began for the suspect, 36-year-old Benjamin Charles Parker. Parker was also later found dead inside his vehicle behind a Safeway store in Enumclaw, about 50 miles southeast of Seattle. The Washington County Sheriff's Office says Parker appears to have died by suicide.
I will say that in my 22 years here, I have not been a part of or witnessed a scene quite this complex involving this type of an investigation.
The incident even catching the attention of Governor Tina Kotek. In a statement on social media, the governor said in parts, "Whatever the circumstances, let's keep the family and friends of the victims in our hearts and prayers." And there's still several questions that remain unanswered this morning. Investigators have not said how they were able to connect Parker to the crime scene, as well as what the motive behind all this was. If you do have any information that could help with this case, the Sheriff's Office says go ahead and give them a call. In Forest Grove, Mo Hyder, KGW News.
And if you or someone you know is experiencing suicidal thoughts, help is available 24/7. Just one option is you can call the number there on your screen. That's 988. Nearly 24 people have been displaced after a fire tore through an apartment building in Cathlamet. These photos from the fire department there show crews battling the flames as they burst out of windows and even through the roof, eventually completely destroying the structure. The fire shut down the highway that goes across Puget Sound as crews work to put it out, but that is now reopened. This video was sent to us by a viewer who witnessed the flames. Officials say the fire started around 2 o'clock this morning on the 100 block of Columbia Avenue. 21 people have been displaced. 7 were treated at the scene, and no one had to go to the hospital. Crews shut down Front Street as well as pause and access to from Puget Sound, but both have since reopened. Meanwhile, crews battled a fire that broke out at a Southeast Portland apartment complex this morning. This was on Southeast 157th near Stark Street. Both Portland Fire and Gresham Fire responded. Several crew members guarded power lines that had fallen because of the fire. Firefighters also had difficulty getting access to the building.
So in order to get hose lines into the front of this structure, we actually had to cut the fence, use our chainsaw to open up 8-foot section of fence to go through from the property where you and I are standing through to the property that was actually being affected by fire.
Quite an operation there. Within roughly 10 minutes, though, Portland Fire reported it was out. Everyone in the building was evacuated, including several chickens that were on the property. No word yet on any injuries. All right, let's step outside. It is expected to be a pretty hot day today, with temps reaching the low 90s. All right, let's bring in meteorologist Rod Hill for a closer look. And Rod, it's a bit of a shakeup from what we saw this weekend.
Yeah, the weekend was 77, Blair, on Saturday, and 79 today. Now, 93 you mentioned. I'm sticking with that forecast high, which would equal what we actually had for one day Thursday of last week, if you remember that one hot afternoon. Well, I think that's where we're headed today. It is sunny, and I'm looking around. I don't really see much in the way of wildfire haze up here at this hour on the weather deck, brought to you by Rick's Custom Fencing and Decking. But a reminder that the overall wind flow is north to northeast, so we're still anticipating at least some visibly noticeable wildfire haze in the sky. I don't think it's really going to be a concern, but something we are expecting. Some live cameras for you. You know what, that northeast wind flow I mentioned, that means the coast almost always is sunny and warm as well. And there's that lunchtime number of 74. Seaside, one of the spots at the beach that could make it all the way up to 80 degrees today. Here's Salem. Lunchtime temperature, here we go, 74 degrees. Just like being at the beach, right? Here's a look at the Pioneer Park building in downtown Portland. And the PDX number is a little bit warmer, 77 degrees. Here are the afternoon hour by hour. Well, no, I'm going to show you the current temps real quick. 83 down in Tigard, 76 in Gresham. And let's play the Mid-Valley, then I'll get you your hour-by-hour temperatures. There's that 74 degrees in Salem. The temperature march does take us up to 90 degrees as soon as 3 o'clock, and then 93 for a high at 5 p.m. As you mentioned, Blair, it's going to start feeling a bit toasty. For now, back to you.
Okay, Rod, thanks so much. In your national headlines this afternoon, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent announced new economic sanctions against Iran today. It comes after Bessent threatened what he called an economic D-Day for Iran, touting it as the, quote, single greatest financial offensive against an adversary. The Trump administration believes the pressure from the new sanctions will compel Tehran to agree to their demands, such as reopening the Strait of Hormuz. Other nations doing business with Iran could also face economic punishments.
Let me be clear. Any entity that facilitates money laundering on behalf of Iran will be removed from the U.S. dollar system. The clock just started ticking.
Iran dismissed the threat, saying they would show, quote, no leniency toward the U.S. It's unclear what the new proposed sanctions will look like or how they'll be different from the ones that have come before. Meanwhile, President Trump is threatening to impose steep tariffs on a variety of Canadian goods. That includes a 50% tariff on cars, trucks, automobile parts, and steel. Now, those would start on the first day of the new year. The threat follows a wave of new 50% tariffs that hit several other Canadian goods early Saturday after trade negotiations between the two countries broke down. Last week, Canada's Prime Minister said the country would retaliate against any new tariffs imposed by the U.S. And grocery giant Kroger, which owns Fred Meyer and QFC stores, has agreed to pay $17 million as part of a class action settlement over allegations that they overcharged some customers for prescription drugs. The lawsuit alleges the chain's pharmacies charged some insured customers more for certain generic prescriptions between 2018 and this month. Kroger maintains it never overcharged customers and that discounted drug prices were only available to people who paid for a Savings Club membership. The settlement must be approved by a court. And back at home, Oregon State Police are now investigating a crash that closed Highway 6 in Washington County for hours on Sunday. 3 people were also hurt in the afternoon crash near the Northwest Timber Road exit. One victim was life-flighted to the hospital, and we do not have an update on their condition. Well, a Clark County man will spend the rest of his life in prison after hiring someone to kill his wife, Lindy Rummel. Loved ones of Lindy had this to say in court Friday.
You could have walked away. You could have filed bankruptcy. Anything besides hiring your old prison buddy to murder your wife.
James Rummel was sentenced without the possibility of release. His friend Daryl Riley told police Rummel had hired him to kill Lindy back in 2024. Rummel briefly spoke to the court before hearing his sentence.
I've been found guilty through circumstances and lies. Am I upset? You bet I am. Do I care? Absolutely. I care for your feelings, although you hate me.
The friend who carried out the plot reached a plea agreement and testified against James Rummel. He was previously sentenced to 20 years in prison. Well, a Cirque du Soleil acrobat is suing the traveling circus company for more than $16 million after falling and breaking 11 bones during a show here in Portland. But we want to warn you that one of the images you're about to see is pretty graphic. Okay, back in August of 2024, Maria Konfektova was 15 feet above the stage when she fell with no net and no mat below her. Months after the incident, OSHA found a lack of proper safety systems and fined Cirque du Soleil $8,000. Now, according to the lawsuit, Cirque du Soleil told OSHA that 20 feet was the height limit at which they start requiring fall safety protections. Photos provided by her attorney show Konfektova in the hospital with fractures to her skull, wrist, lower back, and facial bones. In her lawsuit, she alleges the company was negligent for not providing fall protection. We reached out to Cirque du Soleil. A spokesperson tells us they are aware of the reports, but that they will not comment on legal matters.